Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is January 3rd, 2025, and Barcelona are set to play their first match of this year tomorrow against UD Barbastro. And ahead of that match, we're going to discuss everything related to it, including Hansi Flick's press conference, what players we might see debut, and what Flick had to say about Dani Olmo and Pau Victor's registrations. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and as you know, tomorrow Barcelona will debut in the Copa del Rey against UD Barbastro in the round of 32 in what will be Barcelona's first match of the calendar year 2025. And ahead of that match, the team did their final training session today, Friday. And tomorrow, of course, they will be playing around 7 p.m. local time, which is 1 p.m. New York Eastern Standard Time. Now, ahead of tomorrow's match, we could see the long-awaited debut of Wojciech Szczesny, who Barcelona signed as the second goalkeeper once Mark ter Stegen got injured. And of course, as you know, Barcelona have a policy where the first goalkeeper is the goalkeeper for the Champions League and La Liga, and where the second goalkeeper becomes the goalkeeper for the Copa del Rey. Since Szczesny has been, relegated to the second position, we could see the long-awaited debut of the Polish goalkeeper in tomorrow's match. Now, another player that we were hoping to see debut tomorrow, it looks like it's not going to happen, and that's Dani Rodriguez, the 19-year-old winger who Hansi Flick called up to first-team training. Of course, Dani Rodriguez is a very promising winger currently in Barca Athletic. Unfortunately, he spent most of the first half of the season injured, but since he came back, he's been on fire, scoring 3 goals and providing 2 assists in 4 matches only, and we were hoping to see him tomorrow. However, it looks like Dani Rodriguez will not be able to participate because he had a suspension from last season's Copa del Rey Juvenil, which is the Copa del Rey that the youngsters playing in, and it looks like that suspension carried over, so he will be suspended for tomorrow's match. So that will be unfortunate because honestly, I was looking forward to seeing Dani Rodriguez play. Plus, Hansi Flick is going to need as many alternatives in the attack as possible because as we know, Dani Olmo and Pau Victor have not been registered yet. I discussed all that in the podcast. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. Rafinha most likely is going to be rested, and Lamine Yamal is still recovering from his injury. It's reported that he is, training with the team. Most likely he could be ready, but, why rush him, especially for a match in the Copa del Rey against, I think it's a 3rd or 4th division team. So Hansi Flick is going to need as many available options as possible. It looks like Dani Rodriguez is not going to be one of them. Now, one option that will be available for the German coach will be Toni Fernandes, who was also called up to the first team training, and he could debut tomorrow. After all, Hansi Flick has been very impressed with the 16-year-old ever since the debut of Toni Fernandes with the first team during the preseason. And I have to say, I am also looking forward to his debut if it happens, because after all, Toni Fernandes is one of the most promising players currently in Barca Athletic. Now, speaking of tomorrow's match, of course, there was the pre-match press conference that Hansi Flick held. And of course, the big topic was Dani Olmo and Pau Victor's registrations. And this is what the German coach had to say. I don't want to speak so much about Dani Olmo and Pau Victor. That's not my job. I spoke with the president today, and I have confidence in the club. They do their job. I do my job. Honestly, I'm not happy about the situation, and players are not either. But it is what it is. We are professionals. The confidence is there. We have to wait for the decision. Now, when asked about what exactly he had spoken with John Laporta about, he said, when I speak with the president, that's private and it stays private. So really well handled by Hansi Flick, who did not want to get into the details or the weeds of the whole topic. Just saying, look, it's not my job. My job is to coach. I stick to my job. The club does their job. I trust in whatever they had to tell me. And that's it. What did they tell me? Don't worry, that's none of your business. That's a private conversation. So really well handled by Hansi Flick. It's unfortunate that even he even had to handle the situation to begin with, because since this whole debacle started, not John Laporta, not a single board member has had the balls or the decency to come out and face the press and say, look, this is what's going on. This is what we have done. This is what we plan to do. This is what we think is going to happen. Instead, they've been hiding behind their closed doors. And poor Hansi Flick, who has absolutely nothing to do with this, is the first person to have to face the press. So, of course, the big question, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And guess what? It's not Hansi Flick's job to answer, because he is the coach. His job is to coach the team. His job is not to be answering these questions. It's John Laporta's job to be answering these questions. So Hansi Flick shouldn't have even been put in that position to begin with. But since he was, I think he handled it pretty well. Now, Hansi Flick was asked whether he was happy at Barcelona, given everything that's going on with Dani Olmo and Pau Victor. And this is what the German coach had to say. From the first second I was here in Barcelona, I fell in love with everything. The mentality in the dressing room is unbelievable. It is really a good vibe and atmosphere. This is why we love to work here. So again, Hansi Flick, deflecting these silly questions, really. Oh, are you happy because, Dani Olmo and Pau Victor not giving? Like, come on, man. Let's be a little bit more serious about our jobs. But nonetheless, Flick, deflecting that question, say, look, I'm happy to be here. I love it here. I love everything about this club, which is what he's always maintained, which is pretty refreshing as opposed to previous coaches who used to say, how hell and miserable it was to be Barcelona's coach. It's good to see finally a coach who actually enjoys being at the club rather than seeing it as being hell. Now, Hansi Flick was also asked, well, what's going on with Pau Victor and Dani Olmo affect, any future players and make them hesitate about coming to the club? And this is what the German coach had to say. They are two very good players and very important for us, so I don't think so. I always think positively. Even in this situation, I think positively. We'll see what the decision is when it's made, and then I'll evaluate the situation. But for now, I'm really optimistic about it. I know it's not easy. I know that very well. But in the end, I'm still positive. So again, Hansi Flick pretty much deflecting the question, saying, look, I'm positive that everything's going to come out right, and pretty much not answering the question, because that's not a question that, you can answer like, oh, do I think some player I've never met is going to be hesitant about coming to Barcelona in some future time? Like, again, another silly question, which, again, handled really well by Hansi Flick. And someone did ask me this during the podcast, do you think this might make players think twice about coming to Barcelona? I think it's already happened even before the whole Pau Victor and Dani Olmo debacle. After all, Nico Williams hesitated to come in because of the registration problem. Of course, he also wanted to stay at Athletic Club Bilbao and play another year with his brother, but it looks like it's already affected a player from coming to Barcelona. But since Barcelona are now under the 1-1 rule, which again, more details in the podcast, check it out. And if Barcelona stay under the 1-1 rule, then in that case, I don't think it's going to affect anyone, because at that point, you don't have to worry about being registered or not, because the club will be able to register whoever they sign. Now, Hansi Flick was asked about Eric Garcia, and if you don't know what's going on with Eric Garcia, there have been multiple reports stating that now, since Ronald Araujo and Andreas Christensen will be coming back, there will be even less minutes available for Eric Garcia, someone who's barely gotten any minutes, and as such that the player could consider leaving, especially after Flick, kind of left the door open for him to leave. And there's also been a lot of reports that Girona are really insistent on signing the player during this winter transfer market, that they're even willing to offer 10 million euros for his signing. So Hansi Flick was asked, is Eric Garcia going to leave in the winter transfer market, with Girona knocking on the door, and with Eric, most likely getting even less minutes with the return of Araujo and Christensen? And well, this is what Hansi Flick had to say. I don't think Eric Garcia will leave in the winter. For us, he is ours, and he is a good player. He is an intelligent player that can play in different positions. We are not thinking about his departure at the moment. Now, as you know, Hansi Flick and Deco prefer not to offload anyone in the winter transfer market, because they consider that as weakening the squad. So, saying that he doesn't think that Eric Garcia is going to leave. They don't want him to leave. But, of course, at the end of the day, if the player wants to leave, he's going to end up leaving. But so far, it's reported that Eric wants to stay. We'll see if Girona end up changing his mind. After all, I think if Eric leaves, I don't think it's going to affect the squad that much. But nonetheless, just know it is an option. And for now, Flick doesn't want to lose anyone. And for now, Eric is not thinking about leaving. Now, Flick was asked about Szczesny, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Is Szczesny going to debut tomorrow? And this is what the German coach had to say. What I can say is that Tech is training very well, but the decision has not been made. We will have to wait until tomorrow. We will see. So Flick not wanting to, confirm yes or no, just saying we'll wait for tomorrow. I think most likely Szczesny will debut. But of course, in order to be 100% sure, we will have to wait for tomorrow. Which begs the question, do you guys want to see Szczesny debut tomorrow? Yes, no, let me know down below in the comment section. And finally, Hansi Flick was asked about Andreas Christensen, who has been seen training with the group. Is he ready? Is he going to play? And this is what the German coach had to say. For Andreas, he's doing really well. He has developed a lot. He's also training well, but it is still too early for the Barbastro match. He will go with us to Saudi Arabia. We will see what happens there. The plan is that maybe after Saudi Arabia, he will be ready to join the team. But we have to follow his development day by day and manage him properly. So Flick confirming that Christensen is doing well in trainings. However, he's not in a rush to bring the player back. Definitely not tomorrow against Barbastro. Maybe in the Spanish Super Cup, but even then he prefers that it happens afterwards, because after all, Flick has always been a very careful coach when it comes to players and his players and their injuries. So not looking to rush Christensen back, and I think that's a smart decision. Christensen has missed the entire first half of the season. He's had to undergo surgery to fix his injury, an injury that he has dragged along since last season. So why rush him? Let's make sure he's 200% healed and ready before we can bring him back, rather than rushing him and then risking, a re-injury. Anyways, that is all the news for this video. Again, I did do the podcast earlier today. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. Plenty of good news in there. Well, not good news. Plenty of news, let's put it that way. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.